The stars looked cold through the observation window of Research Station Meridian. Jiho pressed his hand against the glass and watched the planet Krevnor spin slowly below. The world was dead now, had been dead for thousands of years. Whatever civilization lived there once had destroyed itself completely. Only ruins remained, buried under red sand and time. Jiho pulled his coat tighter around himself. The station always felt too cold, or maybe that was just his anxiety talking. He had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach this place, following a message from the Galactic Council. They found something on Krevnor, something old, something that needed a xenobiologist. Commander Hyunwoo met him at the airlock. The man was tall for a human, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Military through and through. He shook Jiho's hand with a grip that was too firm. "Dr. Jiho, thank you for coming so quickly." "The message said it was urgent," Jiho replied. His voice sounded small in the massive docking bay. "What exactly did the salvage team find?" Hyunwoo's expression darkened. "Something we shouldn't have woken up. Come with me." They walked through white corridors that hummed with electricity. Other researchers passed them, different species from across the galaxy. Pelthar with their 6 arms, Fekril with skin that changed colors, a few other humans. Everyone looked worried. No one smiled. 6 days ago, a salvage team broke into an underground facility on Krevnor, Hyunwoo explained as they walked. The place had been sealed for at least 5,000 years. The team thought they found weapons, energy cells, armor, standard archaeological salvage. But it wasn't, Jiho said. No, it was a biocontainment lab, and they opened something they shouldn't have. They entered the security center. Screens covered every wall, showing different parts of the station. Medical Officer Soman was already there, her face pale as she watched one particular screen. She barely nodded when Jiho entered. "Show him," Hyunwoo ordered. Soman's hands shook as she pulled up the footage. This was 4 days ago. The screen showed a cargo bay. The salvage team was unloading a massive cylindrical chamber, easily 10 meters long. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly. One of the Pelthar scientists approached it with a scanning device. Then everything went wrong. The chamber cracked open. Something massive and dark burst out in an explosion of crystalline fragments. The creature was huge, easily the size of a cargo transport. Its body was covered in black scales that looked like volcanic glass. Multiple limbs, each ending in claws as long as Jiho's arm. A head that was all teeth and strange, glowing eyes that saw in spectrums humans couldn't imagine. The Drakva. Jiho recognized it from ancient texts, a war beast from the old empire. The footage showed what happened next, and Jiho wished it hadn't. The creature moved faster than something that large should move. The salvage team didn't have time to run, didn't have time to scream. 17 researchers died in less than 3 minutes. The creature tore through them like they were paper. Then it let out a sound, a sonic frequency that made the cameras shake. All the technology in the cargo bay sparked and died. The emergency doors sealed automatically, trapping the Drakva inside. 17 people, Soman whispered. Gone in seconds. Jiho's chest felt tight. His anxiety was climbing, making his heart beat faster. He focused on breathing. In, out, in, out. "Where is it now?" he asked. "Containment level 5, Hyunwoo said. "We sealed off that entire section. The creature has been trying to break through, but the reinforced walls are holding. Barely." "Why am I here?" Jiho asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Galactic Council wants it studied before we destroy it. They think we can learn something from the creature. About the old empire. About bioengineering. About weapons." Hyunwoo's voice was hard. "Personally, I think we should blow that entire section into space and be done with it." Jiho studied the frozen image on the screen. The Drakva was terrifying, yes. Deadly, absolutely. But there was something else in those strange eyes. Something that looked almost like confusion. Like fear. "I'll need access to the old empire's files," Jiho said. "Everything we know about the Drakva. How they were created. How they were controlled." "Already prepared," Samin said, handing him a datapad. "But Doctor, you should know something. The texts say the Drakva were bonded to their masters through neural implants. Direct brain-to-brain connection. Without that, they're just killing machines." Jiho scrolled through the information. The texts were incomplete, translated from languages that didn't exist anymore. But the basics were clear. The old empire created the Drakva as war beasts. Perfect soldiers. Unstoppable. Loyal only to their bonded master. And their masters were all dead. 5,000 years in the ground. How long before the council orders it destroyed? Jiho asked. 3 days, Hyunwoo said. Maybe less if it breaks containment. The station shook suddenly. Alarms blared throughout the corridors. Red lights flashed. What's happening? Soman shouted over the noise. Hyunwoo was already at the controls, pulling up camera feeds. His face went white. It's breaking through. The Drakva is breaking through level 5. The screen showed the creature slamming into reinforced walls. Each impact shook the entire station. Its claws tore through metal like cloth. The sonic frequencies it emitted made the cameras glitch and fail. Evacuate Research Wing 7, Hyunwoo ordered into his comm. All personnel to emergency pods. This is not a drill. People were running now. Jiho could see them on the screens. Researchers of every species fleeing toward the escape pods. The Drakva crashed through another wall. It was heading toward the main research level, heading toward them. We need to go. Soman grabbed Jiho's arm. Now they ran. The corridors felt endless. Behind them, the sound of tearing metal grew louder. The creature was getting closer. Jiho's lungs burned. His anxiety was screaming at him, making his hands shake, making his heart pound like a drum in his chest. They reached a junction. Hyunwoo went left toward the command center. Salman pulled Jiho right toward the escape pods. But the floor beneath them exploded upward. Metal and debris flew everywhere. Jiho was thrown backward, hitting the wall hard enough to see stars. When his vision cleared, he saw the corridor had collapsed between him and Soman. She was on the other side, screaming his name, but he couldn't hear her through the ringing in his ears. And then he heard something else. Breathing. Heavy. Deep. The sound of claws on metal. Jiho turned. Slowly, the Drakva stood at the end of the corridor. Its massive form filled the entire space. Those strange eyes focused on him. Its jaw opened, showing rows of teeth designed to rip and tear. Jiho couldn't move. His anxiety had frozen him completely. His heart was racing so fast it hurt. This was it. This was how he died. Alone in a collapsed corridor, killed by an ancient war beast that shouldn't exist. The Drakva took a step forward. Then another. Its head lowered, and Jiho could smell something like hot metal and ozone. The creature was close enough to kill him with one swipe of those terrible claws, but it didn't attack. Instead, it stopped and tilted its head, like it was listening to something only it could hear. Jiho couldn't breathe. His chest was so tight it felt like someone was crushing him. The panic attack was taking over completely now, worse than any he had experienced before. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. Sweat poured down his face despite the cold air. His hands shook so badly he had to press them against the wall to keep steady. The Drakva moved closer. Every instinct screamed at Jiho to run, but his legs wouldn't work. His body had betrayed him. The anxiety had locked him in place, forcing him to watch his own death approach one massive step at a time. The creature lowered its head until it was level with Jiho's chest. Those strange glowing eyes studied him. Its breath was hot, smelling like copper and ash. This close, Jiho could see every detail of its crystalline scales. They reflected light and patterns that hurt to look at directly. He was going to die. His heart was beating so fast and so hard that surely it would explode before the creature even touched him. The sound of his own pulse filled his ears like thunder. Then something impossible happened. The Drakva stopped moving. Its head tilted again, this time pressing one side against the wall as if straining to hear something. The glowing eyes dimmed slightly. The tension in its massive body seemed to ease. Jiho's heart continued its frantic rhythm. He couldn't slow it down no matter how hard he tried. The panic was a living thing inside him now, clawing at his throat, making spots dance in his vision. The Drakva made a sound. Not the sonic frequency that destroyed technology. Not a growl or roar. Something else. Something deep and rumbling that came from inside its chest. The sound vibrated through the air, through the floor, through Jiho's bones. It sounded almost like purring. No, that was impossible. Warbeasts didn't purr. They killed. That's what they were made for. That's what the text said. That's what the footage showed. But the sound continued. Deep and rhythmic and strangely soothing. The creature moved again, and Jiho's panic spiked so sharply he thought he might pass out. But the Drakva didn't attack. Instead, it lowered its massive head further until it pressed against Jiho's chest, right where his heart was trying to beat its way out of his body. The purring sound grew louder. Jiho's hand moved without his permission. He couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the panic making him delirious. Maybe he had already died and this was some strange hallucination. But his shaking hand reached up and touched the creature's head. The scales were warm. Smooth like glass but somehow soft at the same time. The vibration from the purring traveled up his arm, through his shoulder into his chest. Something strange happened then. His heart was still racing, but the sharp edge of panic began to dull. The tightness in his chest eased just a fraction. He could breathe a little deeper. The Drakva's eyes closed. They stood like that for a long moment. A human scientist frozen with fear, and an ancient war beast making sounds that no war beast should make. The corridor around them was destroyed, debris everywhere, alarms still blaring in the distance. But in this small space, something impossible was happening. Jiho's heart began to slow, not all at once. The panic was still there, still waiting to pull him under, but the purring sound seemed to wrap around him like a blanket. His breathing became steadier. His hand stopped shaking quite so badly. "Jiho!" Someone's voice came through his comm, crackling with static.
Jiho, respond.
"Are you alive?" The Drakva's eyes snapped open at the sound. Its head pulled back from Jiho's chest. For a moment, Jiho thought the spell was broken. The creature would remember what it was made for, would remember that it was supposed to kill. But the Drakva just looked at him. Those strange eyes seemed almost curious now instead of murderous. I'm here," Jiho managed to say into his comm. His voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. "I'm alive." The creature? Hyunwoo's voice this time, sharp and demanding. "Where is it?" Jiho looked at the massive beast standing in front of him, at the claws that could tear him apart, at the teeth that could crush his bones, at the eyes that were watching him with something that looked almost like interest. "It's here," Jiho said slowly. "It's right in front of me." Silence on the comm. "Then get out of there, run!" "I can't," Jiho said, and it was true. Not because the panic had frozen him anymore, but because something told him that running would be the wrong thing to do. "It's not attacking." "What?" Salmon's voice. "That's impossible. The footage—" "I know what the footage showed," Jiho interrupted. "But it's not attacking me. It's just watching." More silence. Then Hyunwoo spoke, his voice careful. "Jiho, stay very still. We're trying to find a way to reach you. Can you move at all?" Jiho tested his legs. They worked now. The panic had released its grip enough that he could shuffle backward a few steps. The Drakva watched him move but didn't follow. Its head tilted again in that curious way. "Yes," Jiho said. "But Commander, I don't think I should leave." "That's the panic talking," Somin said quickly. "You're in shock. That's normal. But you need to get away from that thing before what?" Jiho asked. "Before it kills me?" It could have done that already. Several times, but it didn't. He took a step toward the creature. His heart rate picked up again, but not from panic this time. From curiosity, from the scientist part of his brain that needed to understand what was happening. The Drakva's purring sound increased in volume. It lowered its head again, waiting. Jiho reached out and placed both hands on the creature's head. The warmth flowed through him. The vibration seemed to sync with something inside his chest. His heart, still beating fast but not panicking anymore, seemed to match the rhythm of the purring. "Jiho, what are you doing?" Hyunwoo's voice had an edge of fear now. "I'm watching on the security cameras." "Don't touch it." "It wants me to," Jiho said, and somehow he knew this was true. "I don't know how I know, but I do." The Drakva moved then, but not violently. It circled Jiho slowly, its body coiling around him in a protective curve. Those massive claws stepped carefully, avoiding the debris. It lowered itself to the ground, surrounding Jiho with its bulk, and continued purring. "This is insane," Somin whispered over the comm. "This is absolutely insane. Get me every piece of information we have on the Drakva," Jiho said. His voice was steadier now. The scientist was taking over from the panicked human. Something in the texts must explain this. War beasts don't just stop being war beasts. There has to be a reason. "We'll get you the data," Hyunwoo said, "but Jiho, the council, is going to hear about this. They're going to want to destroy that creature even faster now. It's too dangerous, too unpredictable." Jiho looked at the massive beast curled protectively around him, at the way it kept its head near his chest as if listening to his heartbeat, at the eyes that watched him with something that definitely wasn't bloodlust. "Then we need to figure out why it's acting this way," Jiho said, "because I don't think this is unpredictable at all. I think this is what it was always meant to do. We just forgot what that was. The Drakva's purring continued, a deep sound that filled the destroyed corridor, and for the first time since arriving at the station, Jiho's anxiety was quiet, pressed into silence by the heartbeat of an ancient war beast that had somehow decided he was worth protecting, instead of killing. Somewhere in the station, alarms still blared. Somewhere people were afraid and confused. Somewhere the Galactic Council was probably deciding to destroy everything. But here, in this small bubble of impossible peace, Jiho placed his hand over his own heart and felt it beating strong and steady. The Drakva pressed closer, responding to that rhythm, and neither of them moved. The standoff lasted 6 hours. Jiho sat with his back against the destroyed wall while the Drakva remained coiled around him like a massive, deadly blanket. Every time he shifted position, the creature's eyes would snap open and watch until he settled again. Then the purring would resume. Hyunwoo had tried 3 times to send in a rescue team. Each time the Drakva would rise to its full height, scales bristling, that terrible sonic frequency building in its throat. The teams would retreat. The creature would settle back down around Jiho and start purring again. It only reacts when people get close to you, Summon observed through the comm. She had set up monitoring equipment as close as she dared, scanning both Jiho and the creature from a safe distance. As long as you're alone with it, it stays calm. Not helpful, Jiho muttered. His legs were cramping from sitting still so long, but he was afraid to stand, afraid to break whatever strange spell was keeping him alive. The station around them had gone into emergency mode. Research Wing 7 was completely evacuated. Emergency bulkheads sealed off the damaged sections. Hyunwoo had convinced the council to delay the destruction order, but only for 48 hours. After that, they would blow the entire wing into space, Drakva and all, and maybe Jiho too if he couldn't figure this out. The data you asked for is coming through now, Soman said. Ancient texts about the Drakva. Most of it is fragments. The old empire didn't write instruction manuals for their war beasts. Jiho pulled up the files on his datapad. His hands were steadier now, though he still felt like he was made of fragile glass. One wrong move and everything would shatter. The texts were incomplete, full of gaps where translation failed or the original documents had degraded. But certain words appeared over and over. Bond, master, neural link, control. It says here the Drakva were implanted with neural interfaces at birth. Jiho read aloud. The implants connected them directly to their master's brain. Complete control. The beast would do anything its master commanded. So without a master, it just kills, Hyunwoo said grimly. Maybe, Jiho said slowly. Or maybe without a master, it doesn't know what to do. Maybe it's just confused and scared. The Drakva's head lifted at his words. Those strange eyes focused on him with unsettling intelligence. It made a soft sound. Not quite a purr, but not a growl either. Something in between. Scared? Hyunwoo sounded doubtful. That thing killed 17 people. 17 people who woke it up in a strange place, surrounded by technology and species it had never seen before, Jiho argued. Think about it. This creature was put in stasis when its civilization was dying. It wakes up thousands of years later. Its master is dead. Everyone it knew is dead. It's alone. What would you do? Silence on the comm. Then Soman spoke, her voice thoughtful. You think it bonded to you? Without a neural implant? I don't know, Jiho admitted. But something is keeping it from killing me. Something made it stop when I was having a panic attack. Your panic attack. Somin's voice sharpened. Jiho, when did it stop attacking? The exact moment? Jiho thought back. The corridor. The debris. The creature approaching. His heart racing so fast he thought it would explode. When my heart was beating the fastest. When I was the most terrified. Your heartbeat, Sumin breathed. It heard your heartbeat. She was moving. Jiho could hear her footsteps through the comm. Equipment being pulled out. Scanners powering up. Don't move. I'm getting readings on both of you right now. Jiho sat very still. The Drakva watched him, then slowly lowered its head back to his chest. The purring resumed. The vibration traveled through Jiho's body and he realized something strange. His heartbeat was matching the rhythm of the purring. Or was the purring matching his heartbeat? He couldn't tell which came first. Oh my God, Somin whispered. Jiho, your heart rate and the creature's biorhythm. They're synchronizing. What does that mean? I don't know. Somin sounded excited now. like she did when she made a breakthrough. But look at this. Every time your heart rate changes, the creature responds. When you calm down, it calms down. When your pulse quickens, it becomes more alert. Hyunwoo cut in. Are you saying the creature is reading his heartbeat? Like some kind of biological scanner? More than that, So-min said. It's not just reading it. It's responding to it. Like they're connected somehow. A new voice joined the comm, deep and resonant with the multitonal quality of a Pelthar. This is Daeun. I am a specialist in ancient bioweapons. I arrived on the station 1 hour ago. Commander Hyunwoo has briefed me on the situation. Welcome to the nightmare, Jiho said dryly. The Drakva's ear twitched at his voice. I have been studying the texts you uncovered, Daeun continued, and I believe Medical Officer So-min is correct. The neural implants were not the original bonding method. Explain, Hyunwoo ordered. The oldest texts, the ones from before the old empire fell into war, describe the Drakva differently. They were not called war beasts then. They were called something that translates roughly to heart companions. The neural implants came later, when the empire corrupted them for military use. Jiho felt something shift in his chest. The Drakva lifted its head and looked directly at him, as if it understood what Daeun was saying. Heart companions? So-min asked. The Drakva were empaths, Daeun explained. They bonded to individuals through emotional and biological connection. The bond was formed through prolonged exposure to their chosen person's life rhythms. Heartbeat, breathing, brainwaves. Over time, they would synchronize completely. But that takes time, Hyunwoo said. This happened in minutes. Yes, Daeun agreed. Which suggests something unique about Dr. Jiho specifically. Or about humans in general. I need to run tests. Tests? Jiho shifted uncomfortably. The Drakva immediately pressed closer, a low rumble in its throat. I don't think it's going to let you get close enough for tests. I have brought remote scanning equipment, Daeun said. It will not require physical proximity. Over the next hour, Daeun set up scanners throughout the corridor. The Drakva watched every movement with suspicious eyes but didn't attack as long as no one approached Jiho. Hyunwoo stationed himself at a safe distance with Junho, a human combat specialist who had arrived with the Council's military response team. Junho's hand never left his weapon, ready to fire if the creature showed any aggression. The scans revealed something remarkable. Human heartbeats, unlike those of other species, had a natural variability. They sped up and slowed down in response to emotions, thoughts, even memories. Most species' hearts beat in steady, predictable rhythms, but human hearts were wonderfully, chaotically irregular. The Drakva responds to that irregularity, Daeun explained. It is drawn to it, like a signal calling specifically to them. Why? Jiho asked. He had started gently stroking the creature's head. Its scales were warm under his fingers, and the purring sound seemed to grow softer when he touched it. More contented. I do not know, Daeun admitted. The texts do not explain this. But I believe the Drakva were originally bred to protect beings with strong emotional responses. The irregular heartbeat would signal to them who needed protection. So it thinks Jiho needs protecting? So-min asked. Or it knows Jiho was afraid and wants to help him feel safe, Daeun corrected. These creatures are more sophisticated than we realized. They do not simply respond to commands. They respond to need. Jiho looked at the massive beast that had curled itself around him, at the deadly claws that were carefully positioned to avoid hurting him, at the teeth that could tear him apart but instead remained hidden behind closed jaws, at the eyes that watched him with something that looked almost like concern. I need to give it a name, Jiho said suddenly. What? Hyunwoo sounded baffled. If we're bonded, if this is going to be permanent, I need to call it something other than the creature or it. Jiho thought for a moment. Ma'am, I'll call you ma'am. The Drakva's eyes brightened at the word. Its purring intensified. Then it did something that made everyone watching catch their breath. It touched its head gently to Jiho's chest, right over his heart. Then it pulled back and touched one massive claw to its own chest, right where its heart would be. Did it just... So-min's voice trailed off in wonder. Understand me? Jiho finished. Yes, I think it did. Mayhem settled back down, that deep purring sound filling the corridor again. And Jiho, surrounded by an ancient war beast that had chosen him for reasons no one could fully explain, finally allowed himself to believe he might actually survive this. But surviving was only the first problem. The second problem was standing at a safe distance with a weapon ready, wearing the uniform of the Galactic Council's military. And Junho's orders were very clear. If the creature showed any sign of being a threat, he was authorized to use lethal force. News traveled fast in the galaxy. By the second day, every major news network was covering the story of the human scientist and the ancient war beast. Some called it a miracle, others called it a threat. The Galactic Council called it a problem that needed to be solved immediately. Jiho had been living in the destroyed corridor with Ma'am for 36 hours now. Solman brought him food and water, leaving it at a safe distance for him to retrieve. He slept leaning against Ma'am's warm bulk, the creature's purring like a constant lullaby. When he woke, Ma'am was always watching him with those intelligent eyes. He had stopped being afraid. That was the strangest part. His anxiety, which usually controlled every aspect of his life, had gone quiet. When Ma'am was close, when that purring sound filled his ears, Jiho felt calm in a way he had never experienced before. "How are you holding up?" Yunwu asked through the comm. The commander hadn't slept either, judging by the exhaustion in his voice. "Better than expected," Jiho admitted. He ran his hand along Ma'am's scales. The creature leaned into his touch like a cat seeking affection. "How much time do we have?" 12 hours before the council arrives in force. They're bringing warships, Jiho. Enough firepower to destroy this entire station if they think it's necessary. Jiho's heart rate spiked at those words. Ma'am immediately lifted its head, a low growl building in its throat. Its scales bristled, making it look even larger and more dangerous. "Easy," Jiho whispered, placing his hand on Ma'am's head. "It's okay. We're okay." The creature's eyes found his. The growl faded. The scales smoothed. The purring resumed. "See what I mean?" Solman said. She had been watching every interaction, recording everything. "Your emotional state directly affects it. When you're calm, it's calm. When you're stressed, it gets protective," Jiho finished. He forced himself to breathe slowly, to push down the fear. "We need to prove this to the council. We need to prove that Ma'am isn't dangerous." "It killed 17 people," Junho pointed out. The combat specialist had been watching with sharp eyes for 2 days straight. "The council isn't going to forget that. It killed 17 people who woke it up in a terrifying situation without understanding what it was," Jiho argued. "That's not the same as being inherently dangerous." A new voice joined the conversation. Female, human, with an accent that suggested she came from one of the Earth colonies. "Dr. Jiho, my name is Yunji. I'm a psychologist specializing in interspecies communication. The council sent me to evaluate the situation." "Another specialist," Jiho said. "How many people are watching us now?" 43 researchers, 12 military personnel, and about 2 billion people across the galaxy through news feeds. Yunji replied cheerfully. "You're famous. Also possibly insane, but we're still debating that part." Despite everything, Jiho smiled. Ma'am made a sound that was almost like a chirp, as if pleased by his amusement. "I've been reviewing all the footage," Yunji continued, "and I have a theory. The Drakva isn't responding to your commands, Dr. Jiho. It's responding to your emotions. Your fear, your calm, your affection. It's reading you in a way most species can't read each other." "An empath," Daeun added, "as I suggested before. But the connection appears to be specifically tuned to emotional states that generate heart rate changes. Which means humans are uniquely compatible," Yunji said. "Our hearts respond dramatically to emotion, more than most species. We literally wear our hearts on our sleeves, metaphorically speaking." Jiho thought about that, about how his anxiety made his heart race, about how moments of joy made it soar, about how fear and love and anger and peace all changed the rhythm in his chest. His heart was a constant messenger, broadcasting his emotional state to anyone who could read it, and Ma'am could read it perfectly. "The old empire must have known this," Daeun said. His multiple arms were gesturing at screens full of data. "Look at these genetic markers I found in Ma'am's DNA. They have been specifically coded to respond to adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins, all the chemicals that humans produce when experiencing strong emotions." "Why?" Hyunwoo asked. "Why would they engineer that?" "Because the Drakva were never meant to be war beasts," Daeun said quietly. "They were meant to be guardians, protectors for individuals who experience the world intensely. The old empire had such beings. The texts call them the deeply feeling ones. We would call them empaths or highly sensitive persons. People who felt everything more strongly than others." Jiho felt something click into place. His anxiety, his panic attacks, his inability to calm down even when he wanted to. Maybe those weren't weaknesses. Maybe those were exactly the traits that allowed him to connect with Mayhem. The neural implants, Yunji said slowly. They came later, when the Empire started fighting wars and needed soldiers. They took these guardian creatures and forced them to be weapons, overrode their natural bonding instinct with artificial controls. That is correct, Daeun confirmed. And it destroyed them. The later texts show the Drakva becoming more unstable, more violent, less controllable. The Empire was forcing them to act against their nature. Someone spoke up. So when Mayhem woke up and killed those researchers, it was confused and terrified, Jiho said. It was doing what it was forced to do for thousands of years. Kill on command, but there was no commander, no neural implant controlling it. So it just killed everything it saw as a threat, until it found you, Yunji finished. Until it found someone whose heartbeat spoke to its original purpose. Protect, guard, comfort. Mayhem pressed closer to Jiho, as if understanding they were talking about it. The purring sound grew deeper, more content. This is fascinating, Hyunwoo said, but the council arrives in 10 hours. Overseer Vectin is leading the delegation. He's already declared the Drakva too dangerous to live. How do we change his mind? We show him, Jiho said. We show him what Mayhem really is. Not a weapon. A guardian that's been waiting thousands of years to do what it was always meant to do. And if he doesn't believe you? Hunyo asked quietly. His hand was still on his weapon. Jiho met the combat specialist's eyes through the camera feed. Then you'll have to shoot both of us, because I'm not letting them kill Mayhem without a fight. The hours that followed were a blur of preparation. Daeun compiled all his research into a presentation. Yunji prepared psychological evaluations. Summon organized medical data. Yunwoo argued with the council, buying them as much time as possible. And Jiho stayed with Mayhem, the two of them existing in their bubble of synchronized heartbeats and mutual understanding. I'm scared, Jiho admitted to the creature. I'm scared they're going to kill you. I'm scared they won't listen. I'm scared I'm not enough to save you. Mayhem lifted its massive head and looked at him. Then it did something remarkable. It placed its head gently against Jiho's chest and just listened. Listened to his racing heart. Listened to his fear and his determination. Listened to everything he couldn't say with words. And the purring that came from deep in its chest seemed to say, I know. I'm scared too. But we'll face it together. When the council ships arrived, Jiho's heart was steady. Not because he wasn't afraid, but because Mayhem was beside him. And somehow that made all the difference. Overseer Vectin entered the station with an armed guard and a mind already made up. He was a tall, imposing figure from a species that valued logic above all else. His eyes were cold as he reviewed the reports. This creature is too dangerous, he declared. The risk cannot be justified. It will be terminated immediately. No, Jiho said simply. Vectin's eyes narrowed. You do not have the authority to refuse a council order, human. Maybe not, Jiho agreed. But I have the authority to stand between you and Mayhem, and I will. Behind him, Mayhem rose to its full height. Not threatening, not aggressive, simply present, simply ready to protect the human who had given it purpose again. The standoff had begun, and the whole galaxy was watching to see who would blink first. The council chamber had been set up in the station's main conference room. It was the largest space available that could accommodate the various species of the Galactic Council and their guards. 12 council members sat in a semicircle, with Overseer Vectin at the center. Behind them, armed guards stood ready. Above them, screens showed the feed to billions of viewers across the galaxy, and in the middle of it all stood Jiho, with Mayhem beside him. This is highly irregular, Vectin said, his voice cold. The creature should be contained, not brought into a room with council members. Mayhem won't hurt anyone, Jiho said. His hand rested on the creature's head. He could feel Mayhem's tension through that touch, the way its muscles were tight and ready. As long as I'm calm, Mayhem is calm. And if you are not calm, Vectin challenged. If something upsets you, will the creature attack then? Before Jiho could answer, one of Vectin's guards made a sudden movement. Just a shift in stance. But Mayhem reacted instantly. A roar erupted from its throat, that sonic frequency building. Its scales bristled, its claws extended. The guards raised their weapons. Council members rose from their seats in alarm. Vectin's hand went to his sidearm. Stop! Jiho shouted. His heart was racing now, pounding with fear. Not fear of Mayim, but fear for Mayim, fear that this would be the excuse they needed to kill it. Mayim turned its head to look at him. Those intelligent eyes found his. "It's okay," Jiho said, forcing his voice to stay steady even though his heart was hammering. "Nobody's going to hurt us. We're safe. You're safe." The sonic frequency faded. The scales slowly smoothed. Mayim lowered itself back down, pressing close to Jiho's side. The purring resumed, quieter than usual, but present. The room was silent. Every eye was on them. "You see?" Jiho said to Vectin. Mayim responded to the perceived threat but stopped when I asked. "That's not the behavior of a mindless killing machine. That's the behavior of a guardian protecting someone it cares about. Or a weapon waiting for the right command," Vectin countered. But his voice was less certain now. Daeun stood up from where he had been sitting with the research team. His 6 arms held data pads displaying their findings. "Overseer, if I may present our research." For the next hour, Daeun explained everything they had learned. The original purpose of the Drakva, the neural implants that corrupted them, the genetic markers that showed they were designed to respond to emotional states, the way human heartbeats uniquely triggered their bonding instinct. Yoonji added her psychological evaluation. Soman presented the medical data. Hyunwoo testified about Mayim's behavior over the past 3 days. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. Mayim wasn't a threat when bonded to someone who understood it. "This is all very interesting," Vectin said when they finished, "but it does not change the fundamental problem. This creature killed 17 researchers. It is dangerous, and Dr. Jiho is just one human. What happens when he dies? Will the creature go on another rampage?" "We don't know," Jiho admitted honestly. "We don't know what will happen in 20 years or 50 years. But we do know what will happen if you kill Mayim today. You'll destroy a living being that's been suffering for thousands of years. A being that was forced to be something it wasn't, that was finally allowed to be what it was meant to be, only to be killed for it." "You are emotionally compromised," Vectin said. "Your bond with the creature clouds your judgment." "Maybe," Jiho agreed. "Or maybe my bond with Mayim lets me see what everyone else is missing. That this isn't about danger or safety. It's about whether we have the courage to undo the mistakes of the past." One of the other council members, a being from a species that looked like flowing water in a vaguely humanoid shape, spoke up. "The human makes a compelling argument, and the research is thorough. I'm inclined to grant a temporary stay of execution while we study this phenomenon further." "I vote to terminate," another council member said immediately. "The risk is too great." The debate began. Voices rose and fell in a dozen languages. Some council members saw the potential for understanding an ancient species. Others saw only danger. The vote split evenly, 6-6, which meant Vectin's vote would decide everything. The overseer looked at Jiho, at Mayim, at the data on the screens. His face was unreadable. "I have a test," he said finally. "If the creature is truly bonded to Dr. Jiho, if it truly responds to human emotional states, then we should be able to demonstrate this conclusively." "What kind of test?" Hyunwoo asked warily. "I will have my guards sedate Dr. Jiho," Vectin said. "Just a light sedative, enough to slow his heart rate significantly. If the creature is reading his heartbeat, it should respond to this change. If it becomes violent, we will know it is too dangerous. If it remains calm, we will consider allowing it to live." Jiho's heart started racing immediately at the thought. Mam responded with a low growl, pressing closer to him protectively. "That's not a fair test," Soman protested. "Jiho's fear of being sedated is affecting Mayim right now." "Which proves my point," Vectin said coldly. "The creature's behavior is tied to the human's emotions. If those emotions become uncontrollable, so does the creature." "Wait," Jiho said. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to think through his fear. "I'll do it. But on one condition. If Mayim stays calm during the sedation, you vote to let us live. Both of us." Vectin considered this, then nodded. "Agreed. But if the creature attacks, my guards will terminate it immediately." Junho stepped forward with a medical injector. His eyes met Jiho's with sympathy. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Orders are orders." "I know," Jiho replied. He knelt down so he was level with Mayam's head. "Listen to me. They're going to give me medicine that will make me sleepy. My heart is going to slow down, but I'm not in danger. I'm safe. You're safe. Do you understand?" Mayam's eyes searched his face. The creature made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. "I trust you," Jiho whispered. "And I need you to trust me." He held out his arm. Junho pressed the injector against his skin. The hiss of the medicine entering his bloodstream was loud in the silent room. Jiho felt the effects almost immediately. His thoughts became fuzzy. His limbs felt heavy. And his heart, which had been racing with fear, began to slow. 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 Mayam's head snapped up. Its eyes went wide. A sound came from its throat, confused and distressed. Its body tensed, ready to fight whatever was hurting its human. The guards raised their weapons. "No," Jiho slurred. His hand found Mayam's head, even though his arm felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Stay. Please stay." He pressed his other hand against his own chest, right over his slowing heart. Then he reached out and pressed that same hand against Mayam's chest, right where its heart would be. Their eyes met. Jiho tried to project everything he was feeling. Not fear, not panic. Just love. Just trust. Just the absolute certainty that they were in this together. Mayam's body slowly relaxed. The creature lowered itself to the ground and pressed its head against Jiho's chest, listening to that slow, steady heartbeat. And then something remarkable happened. Mayam's own heartbeat began to slow, matching Jiho's rhythm, synchronizing perfectly. The purring that came from the creature was different this time, deeper, more resonant. The sound filled the entire room, vibrating through the floor, through the walls, through the bones of every person watching. Jiho's eyes closed. The sedative was pulling him under. But he could hear that purring, could feel Mayam's warmth, could sense the creature curling protectively around him as he drifted off to sleep. When he woke up, he was in a medical bed. Solman was beside him, her face breaking into a smile when she saw his eyes open. "You did it," she said. Mayam never moved, never showed any aggression, just stayed with you the whole time, keeping your heartbeats synchronized. "Where is Mayam?" Jiho asked immediately, trying to sit up. "Right here." Jiho looked to his left. Mayam was curled up on the floor beside his bed, as close as it could get without climbing onto the medical equipment. Those intelligent eyes were watching him with what could only be described as relief. "The council voted," Hyunwoo said, stepping into view. 7-5 in your favor. They're allowing Mayam to live, but with conditions. "What conditions?" Jiho asked, though he thought he already knew. "You have to stay with it," Hyunwoo explained. "Permanently. You'll be relocated to a sanctuary planet where they're housing other recovered Drakva. You'll be Mayam's official guardian. Your bond will be monitored and studied. But you'll be alive. Both of you." Jiho looked at Mayam, at the ancient creature that had somehow chosen him out of all the beings in the galaxy, at the guardian that had been forced to be a weapon, but finally found its true purpose again. "I accept," he said without hesitation. 6 months later, Jiho stood on a beach on Sanctuary Planet 7, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that Earth never had. Mayam was beside him, the creature's massive form casting a long shadow across the sand. "How are you adjusting?" Solman asked. She had come to visit, bringing supplies and checking on his health. "Better than I ever thought possible," Jiho admitted. "My anxiety is almost gone. I still feel it sometimes, but having Mayam here, it's like having a living reminder that I'm safe, that I'm cared for." "And Mayam?" Jiho looked at the creature, at the way it watched the waves with curiosity, like a child seeing the ocean for the first time. "Happy, I think. We brought 12 other Drakva here from various facilities. 8 of them have bonded with human guardians now. The others are still adjusting." "Why only humans?" Solman asked. "That's what everyone wants to know. Why do Drakva only bond with humans?" "Honestly," Jiho said, "I don't think anyone will ever fully understand. Daeun has theories about genetic compatibility. Yoonji thinks it's about emotional range. But I think it's simpler than that. What do you think?" Jiho placed his hand on Mayam's head. The creature leaned into his touch, purring. I think the Drakva respond to something uniquely human. The way our hearts react to everything we feel. Fear, joy, love, grief. We feel so much so intensely that our hearts can't hide it. And the Drakva were made to protect beings who feel that deeply. That's beautiful, Somin said softly, and terrifying. That our greatest vulnerability is also our greatest strength. Isn't that always the way? Mao made a soft sound and moved closer, pressing against Jiho's side. Their heartbeats synchronized automatically now. A rhythm so natural that Jiho barely noticed it anymore. It was just part of who they were.
Human and Drakva.
Guardian and guarded. Two broken pieces that somehow fit together perfectly. The sun set completely and the stars came out. Billions of them, scattered across a sky that was home to billions of beings. And somewhere among all that vastness the mystery remained. The question that scientists still couldn't answer. Why did a human's heart become a war beast? Why did it start purring? Jiho didn't know. Maybe no one would ever know. But as he stood on that beach with Mayim beside him, both their hearts beating as one, he thought maybe the answer didn't matter. Some mysteries were meant to be felt, not solved. And that was okay.